Ooh, child. Lord, Lord, Lord. How are y'all doing today? Let me tell y'all something. It is an issue that's going on right now. Um, with T.I. Everybody's talking about this thing right now. Hold on, I have a special guest and I need to contact her. Um, it's it's a very hot topic because um T.I.'s being accused of sex trafficking. I've been on Clubhouse, everybody on that hot topic, on the hot app, and that's the topic. I basically went into the house, the little room, and they were talking about the name of the room was T.I. and Tiny should be in jail. And I was like, well, what happened? But and there was a lot of people in there. So, and I'm new to Clubhouse, so I kind of like don't really know, huh? You know what I mean? And so I was trying to figure out um how to figure. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And so this morning, Lord, my whole inbox exploded. I had all kind of messages. Like I was on the phone with my sister, and my phone just went crazy. And I went on Twitter, just clicked on the link, and it was like it was everywhere. And so I wanted to bring in. I'm going to be bringing in somebody today to help me talk about this topic. And before I get started, I want to just tell you about me. I used to be a dancer. I used to be um, in adult entertainment. Okay. And I have actually met T.I. I have seen T.I. in the clubs. I have seen him and Tiny together at the club. And so I've seen them in this environment. And I will give you my take on what I observed, but also I will talk to somebody else who knows some other things, and we're going to get some definitions out here. But she's saying, okay, let me figure out how to get her in here. Okay. It's very important that we are all speaking the same language and we are using the right terminology to describe what is going on. And I don't think people are doing that. I mean, it's not out of malice. It's not that you don't want to say the right stuff. You don't care. People just get everything kind of mixed up and, meshed up together. And it is very upsetting for me as a person who worked with victims and worked with people who are transitioning from sex work, which are two different things, for them to get muddled all together all of the time. It's so it's so easy to get lost in the moral part of it. You know what I mean? Like somebody having sex outside of marriage to some people is just mind blowing. Somebody selling their body, that's not um it's not acceptable. It's not socially acceptable, to a lot of people to sell yourself. And, you know, that's not really for everybody to say. But the issue is when we're talking about trying to help people transition from a lifestyle, it's not for me to judge you. Well, how did you get into it? And that's what becomes the question. And I feel like that's very aggravating for me. When you hear all these people asking, um, I want to help the women, but I want to know how they got involved. I want to help, but not if they chose it and all of that type of stuff. So it's for me. This is why I needed another person on here with me, because it's going to be a discussion, and this other person is actually a survivor herself, and she was a child sex trafficking victim as a child, and I wasn't, right. So I don't really have that. I can't really speak on that, and I'm not. I'm not going to speak on something I don't know. That's why I'm bringing somebody else on here. I want to um, make sure that we have a lot of different points of views, and I will be speaking on behalf of other like people that I know, stories that I know, without using names, of course. But just knowing that there are things that are happening, and we have no idea. We have no connection. We have no personal connection to it. So we really shouldn't be speaking on it, right? Um, but I work in this industry and I work in this field. So I really don't consider myself to be one of those people where you can't speak on it because I kind of can. But when we start speaking about people's experiences, that's something that I don't get into, and I'm not going to deny, right? I'm not going to say that wasn't your experience, but I will say what I do know. Okay, I will say some things that I do know, and what I do know might be against what somebody else know. Okay, and this is not to bash anybody. This is not to discount somebody's story. This is not to say that we don't believe you and all of this is not true. All we're saying, I know what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna speak on me. My point is, you have to know the real story. Okay, know the real story, your own story. That's what I mean by the real story. Don't start telling yourself a story to make yourself a victim again. All right, so we got her in here. And she is behind the stage, but I'm gonna bring her on because I want to go ahead and introduce her. This is Miss CEO Keisha Head. She is she's been in the trenches for a long time, and she has a past too. But this is the reason why I had to bring somebody on who's not squeaky clean. You know what I'm saying? Somebody who is not going to be on here just pointing fingers and judging and doing all of that. So without any further ado, let me go ahead and just bring her up here. Girl, here you go. Boom. There she go.
Hey, sis.
Hey, girl.
Girl.
So, okay, so when you called me this morning, you was like, let's look. I mean, I don't have no lashes on. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, girl, we got to do. You said we got to do it now, but I'm like, we can't even make it look pretty. We just got to throw it out here for what it is because it's not cute.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have to
Gotta,
say about this?
I have to say, like, it's time to talk. It's
Come
time to
on.
talk. It's time to have some of these blackety black conversations
All
for our
right.
people because too many kids, kids are just getting lured into this and not really understanding
Mm-hmm.
what it is. And sex work is not sex trafficking. Let's start there. And we need to really peel back these layers so we can get some understanding and knowing when a person is a victim and when a person is actively consensually engaging in sex work. So
Okay,
those
let me ask you a
conversations we need to
question.
talk about.
So explain what a sex trafficking victim is.
Okay, a sex trafficking victim, and we're going to use words. We have three different terms that we really need to break down, and that's sex worker, prostitute, and sex trafficking victim.
Uh-huh.
So, sex trafficking victim, since I have the background in all three, but
Mm-hmm.
sex trafficking victim is when you're being forced, fraud, or coerced to engage in sex act or in a sex act. So we
Okay.
need to really know that that is an involuntary engagement, an involuntary interaction. And
Involuntary.
involuntary
Mm-hmm.
is
Okay.
I don't have no choice. I couldn't leave if I wanted to.
Okay.
Um, and I'm stuck here. Please help me.
Okay.
That's what
Okay.
that is. Yeah.
Okay. So what is and you know what I wanted to do? I wanted to throw sexual assault in there
hmm
because of, the fact that there is an in between. There's a person who is being forced to sell their body. There's a person who wants to sell their body and is okay with it and consensual. And then there's a person who has been violated and it was one time. So I would
hmm
like to talk about what sexual assault is.
Okay, sexual assault. Let's talk about it. I've been a
Okay.
victim of sexual assault, and a lot of women have. That is abuse. That is someone violently assaulting your body through
Mm-hmm.
rape. That could be rape. That could be you're in a relationship, and this person has dominantly taken control over the rights of your body, meaning you have to have sex when they say it, or you get beat up, or I mean, those are assaults on my body.
Mm-hmm.
And sexual assault can happen in all three sectors. It can happen in sex work. It can happen in prostitution. It can happen in sex trafficking. And so we need to understand that sexual assault is kind of, it's a
It
broader term.
floats.
Hmm.
It's a floater. And so, just and see the reason I want to bring up sexual assault is because a lot of times people are saying, well, if you are a prostitute or if you are a sex worker, which we're going to get to, then sexual assault is okay. You're opening yourself up to be assaulted. But it's like, listen, that's just like saying somebody who wants to have sex is automatically a rapist, right? Like, okay,
Yeah, that's
it's
exactly what
about the person that's taking in power. It's about power. So I want to
it's a
go ahead
power
and just,
dynamic.
yeah, I'm gonna
It's a
show the
power dynamic.
definition of sexual assault is when a person is forced, coerced, or manipulated into unwanted sexual activity, and it's never your fault. If you are sexually assaulted, it's not because you did something, it's because that person is forcing themselves upon you. That is what that is. So, what is a sex worker?
Okay, so we're gonna go. I want to, sometimes some people they go to the dictionary. I go to the etymology dictionary.
Come on
Like
with
I
it.
need the breakdown of the word. Where did it
Okay.
come from? What are the origins? And how did that word change over time?
Come on.
Because we're talking about words and terms that some of the terms have been created in the 1500s, and over time those definitions may have changed and kind of converted into something else. So when
Okay.
you're talking about let's start with the term prostitute.
Okay.
Let's start there.
Okay.
So based on the etymology dictionary, a prostitute is a person, in particular a woman, who engages in sexual activity for payment. And even in this word, there's no distinction in the use of the word between a woman who did it for self gratification. Like some women like to have sex, that's their
Mhm.
right, that's their body. And then there's those who did it out of necessity, meaning I have so many vulnerabilities that, wow, I got to pay my light bill. I don't have money for rent. I'm being evicted. So I'll engage in sexual activity for that. Or I even told kids, if you have sex with a guy for getting your nails done or he buys you a pair of shoes, that is considered prostitution because you
Right.
did it, you engaged in sexual activity, but not for a kid because kids can't consent. So I'm talking
Right.
like 18, 17. I think of them all as kids, honestly. But if you're
Right.
17 or 18 and you have sex with a guy to get your nails done or your get a pair of shoes, that's prostitution. Um, and then there's those who are forced and do it unwillingly. All those experiences come under the term of prostitute.
Right.
And we understand over time that that term does not encompass all experiences,
Correct.
because a person that's doing it unwillingly should not be used under the same term as a person that's engaging consensually. We're not the same.
Right.
Okay. If
Right.
I can leave, if you can leave a situation um, at will and I'm
Hmm.
stuck here, we're different.
Right.
And sex
Right.
worker are adults who receive money or goods in exchange for consensual sexual services or erotic performances, either regularly or occasionally. This is the work that they do. They don't have a 9 to 5. This is their 9 to 5.
Hmm.
They engage they engage in this lifestyle consensually, which
Yes.
is I'm a feminist, I believe, or even males, and it's not female or male, it's all genders engage in sex work and it's their rights to their body. That's my
Hmm.
opinion.
I agree. I agree.
Hmm.
And so like I was saying, I say it all the time because I didn't realize that, being a stripper was considered to be a sex worker. I think if I thought that it would be that if a stripper was a sex worker, I don't think I would have got into it because it just would have it's not what I was signing up to do, first of all.
Hmm.
But it just felt wrong. And I didn't get into any of that until after I actually was in the life. I didn't feel any of the negative um any of the stigma until I got there and I was actually around other people doing other things. And I said, wow, because I'm in here too, that makes it seem like I'm like that too. And that's where my shame came from, like me just being affiliated with certain things. And then I started to develop all of these different mental health things, and I started having all these identities crises. I had a breakdown and all of that. But so, just being in that environment changes you. And my point of me bringing that up is because you can be in a situation like you just said. It's consensual. You signed up for it, but then it takes a turn, right?
Yeah, yeah, and
It's
it's not uncommon for people who enter into sex work to become victims of sex trafficking,
right,
or you enter into sex work and like, okay, this is not. I can see this taking becoming a slippery slope and going
right,
into other situations. And I want to get out while I'm ahead. I mean,
right.
that's very common.
Right. And then like, when you're in a desperate situation, sometimes people start you want to leave the okay, so for me, right, being a stripper, like you want to leave, you tired of it, you don't want to go to the club no more, you're tired of the conversation, you're tired of people stalking you, attacking you, accusing you of being a home wrecker, just all of these things that people put on you and say about you, and you're not like that, or you become like that. So
Hmm.
you either, when you're trying to leave and a person comes up to you and says, well, I can help you leave. But when they actually are talking about leaving, they're talking about going into something worse, right? They're talking about
Hmm.
going into sex trafficking. Oh, you can make more money, you can do this and that. And so for me to hear like people like predators, the predatory piece of this, as far as it appeals to the topic at hand, is, a lot of times people are in situations where they put themselves in situations where they're either trying to live it up in the moment. When you're in the presence of a famous person, you're in the presence of a person with a lot of money and you don't have the money, or it shifts something, it changes something, and you start doing stuff that you wouldn't regularly do. I've seen that. And it's kind of like after they leave, because I've seen girls do crazy stuff with celebrities, and then the next week or so, they got security on a regular person for doing the same thing. So it's kind of like that's why people get upset, because it's kind of like you want to make sure that you're getting the most money for what you're doing. That's the only reason why it's considered rape, because you didn't get paid, or it's considered assault. Just like with Kobe Bryant, when people saying, well, if he had just paid her, we wouldn't have never even knew about her. She would have got her little money and she would have been, on in the win. So when it comes to the topic of I want you to bring it up because you brought it to me and you know more about it. But I wanted to get your take on that situation. And then I'm gonna chime in too.
Okay. Whew. And
Lord Jesus.
before I even get to I want to just bring up the accuser, Sabrina Patterson, if I can say her
Okay.
name. Because she's publicly is in articles and she named herself basically.
Okay.
So a year ago there was and this is public information, everybody saw it. So when the white van um hysterical was going out, Alexis Sky, who is an influencer and I guess a model, video vixen, whatever you want to call, I don't know the correct terminology,
Okay.
um, but she came out and said that she was a victim of sex trafficking and kind of insinuated on being kidnapped. And during that, and this was on Instagram. So
Okay.
I, being in having the same experiences, being in this movement for over 10 years, doing advocacy work, mental health advocate, that type of thing, decided to reach out to her and was like, hey, sis, our Black girls need to know about this lifestyle and they
Mm-hmm.
need to understand the true narrative. So don't
Mm-hmm.
fall into the kidnap narrative. Let's tell our stories. Like tell our actual stories, how it actually happened, how vulnerable we were, how we were lured into this glamorous lifestyle, and how that transitioned into sex work. So
Mm-hmm.
Sabrina Patterson cussed me out on Instagram, and I sent you those messages. Told me to be STUF. So and really trying to shut me down into because they were trying to jump on board of the sex trafficking I guess narrative. But I wanted them to be very clear that if you can't conflate sex trafficking with sex work. You can't because it is a true injustice to the actual victims who are stuck and suffering in that lifestyle. So we have to know that that is a difference. If you engaged in sex work and you got mad at a person, um, or fell out with a person, you can't come back and say that they victimized you. That would be just like me having sex with a guy and a week later we have a fallout and I say, why did you rape me? We have to be very clear what these interactions look like. If they were consensual, you have to say they were consensual. You cannot say that they were that you were a victim of sex trafficking unless you were actual victim and that was force, fraud, or coercion. If there is force, fraud, and coercion, let's talk. Let's
Yeah.
talk about it and let's
You
let's
know,
get to the bottom of it.
so I'm thinking about a predator and a trafficker, convicted trafficker who used some terminology, actually flipped it on its head, talking about how, well, they said that I coerced the girl, but it's only because they saw my lifestyle. When they saw my lifestyle, then that was what coerced them. And it's kind of like, when people dangle a carrot in front of you, and you follow it, if they fall in a hole, is that your fault? That's the question. So it's kind of like, you want to, this person was trying to take themselves off of the table as being culpable for the result of other people being involved in trafficking. And so it's basically like you signed up. That's basically what they're saying. You wanted it because you
And that's
wanted this
different.
lifestyle.
That's different, but was it force, fraud, or coercion? So let's think about the fraud or the coercion piece. Like, how are they? Because that can go into coercion. Like you showed me these things and said that I can get access to them, and then you flip the script once I got it on board, and now I'm stuck having sex with guys, and you get the money, and I don't get access to anything. Like you breached the whole agreement. So what we're seeing here, that's totally different. Let's talk about Ti. Everybody knows that Ti and Tiny do threesomes. I'm just gonna put that out there, and this is a blackety black conversation. If you, I'm right here on Bankhead right now, and so I know, like I'm in it. I know the culture. I've been in it. I've been in those arenas with like you know that that's what they do. I mean, this is no secret. It's a lot of secret things going on, and now when they get exposed, we want to kind of throw it in this pot with something. Oh, let's talk about it. Let's put it out there. I put mine out there, so I'm open to, and this is public information because you can't continue to do things underground, and when they come to the surface, everybody like, oh wow, what is this? What is this? A lot of
You
people
know
do it.
what?
This
You
is
know
the
what?
culture.
That's, being a person who is involved in sex work involves a lot of shame. The
Mm-hmm.
shame piece is so huge because if it's not healed, then it starts to become blame.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, we're not able to take responsibility for our part. So it has to be something happened to us as opposed to us saying, and this is not victim blaming, y'all. Please don't come at me with that.
Mm-hmm.
Please don't come at me with that. We have
Uh,
to be responsible for what we're doing.
yes.
Like for me, I
Mm-hmm.
had to be responsible. I was overly responsible. It's called maladaptive. Like I was overly adapting to what people were putting on me to, if I had a conversation with a man at work who was like enamored with me and, oh my God, you're so beautiful, you're so sexy, you're so fine, you're so this and that, and I'm just riding that wave. And then he said, well, I wish I can go home with you. I might follow you home. And it's a joke. It's kind of like that's those type of things woke me up because it's
Mm-hmm.
like I have to be responsible for what I'm putting out here for them to feel like that's okay to say or do. Like I don't want to see you outside of here, sir.
Mhm.
Don't pull up on me outside because you're gonna get hurt. I'm ready for anybody that's out not inside this place. So
Mhm.
it's like I became very serious to protect myself because I've been a victim of sexual assault myself before I even
Mhm.
got to the club. I was a teenager. So and I felt like that was my fault kind of because, why would I be sitting by myself with this person? And I just it was all the blaming that you could
That is
do. Like,
not your fault.
just the
Mm-mm.
retrospect, the hindsight and all of that.
You
But
yeah, you began to go and question if I would not have done this, this would not have happened.
yes,
But
and then you
it
start
but
blaming yourself
that
and
takes yeah, and that takes so much responsibility off of the predator
yeah,
because I don't care
because
if
we trying to
I
get
walk down the
balance.
street naked. That gives you no right to touch me. This is my body. This is my sacred space. Like
Hmm.
this is so I don't care if I don't care if I was tempted at some point and then in the middle of it I say, oh no, I can't do this. It means stop. It don't mean keep going. It means
Yeah,
stop right there and say okay. And that's what we need to train our young boys, our
yeah,
boys from kids. Like I tell my 7-year-old, if they say don't want to hug, don't touch them.
right,
You stop there. You don't
right.
continue because you want that hug so badly. You carry, so you have to stop it in the infancy form before
Hmm.
it gets to those levels. But these
It's
are
definitely a rape culture.
conversations.
Like the rape
Yeah.
culture. I mean, like women don't own their own bodies. You know what I mean? Like that's what a lot of the sex work. The reason it's illegal is because somebody can't own it. You know what I mean? Other than the person. And so for me to hear that, because I went on Twitter and it was a lot of women saying that they were victimized by him and
Wow.
Tiny, and they were saying that they were drugged, and they were saying that they were being coerced, right? They were being manipulated into being with them. And from my experience, I have seen people stand, and I'm not saying people, but dancers. I've seen when they come in the club, people are lined up and trying to get to them because they know what they are and they
Hmm.
trying to get picked. They
Yeah.
want to be chose.
And
And I'm
those
not
are the
saying that these
conversations.
people want to be chose, but I'm just saying like people know what they want to do and they're signing up to do it. So my question in my head is why would they take it? Or maybe that's a part of their fantasy that they take it. I don't know.
Well, I
What do
can
you
tell
think?
you when I was in the life, when I was in that lifestyle, I did drugs. I did. I was part of that cultural norm. Like I
Okay.
was part of it. Didn't nobody tell me I went and bought my own X pills. Like I was
Yeah.
high when I got to the party. Like I'm ready. Like that was part of. But I own that, and it can. You have to come to a point where you know the difference between when you were a victim and when you were responsible for something. Like
Okay.
I can't. None of there came to a point in my life where the accountability piece has to come for healing. The
Yeah.
accountability has to come for healing because I can't say, oh, I was a victim to everything. No, there were some things I had no control over. There was when I was with Sir Charles and under his influence and authority, I had no control over that. I couldn't leave that guy to save my life. I was scared to. I was scared what he do to my family. I was scared what he would do to people around me. So I stayed. But when I got out of that and that was no longer a threat when he went to prison, I didn't get because I could not survive
Mm-hmm.
on not on minimum wage, and those were the only jobs I can get because of my background. Like it comes, and those are my vulnerabilities that kept me in the life. But
So
there,
as a
if I could have made $15 an hour, because I
mhm,
was making $10,000 a week, and it empowered me. It empowered me. I had access. I didn't have to ask anybody for anything. I didn't have to go get handouts or go to places and take showers. Like I had my own condo.
everything.
Like I had
Hmm.
my own car. I was empowered. I was living life like everybody else. It gave me access to life. That's what it
Hmm.
did.
Hmm.
Until it came to a point where I could not compromise my body for access. This was taking a toll on my body. It was taking a toll on my mental health. And
Yes.
that is when I made the decision. Well, God made the decision to incarcerate me because I probably would have still been in it, to be honest, if
Okay.
God wouldn't have removed me. But the thing about it is, I take accountability for that. I
Mm-hmm.
know when I showed up and I engaged consensually. Let me own my consensuality. Like I need to own my things that I was consent. Everybody has that liberation. White people have that liberation. When they send their daughters, was sending their daughters to the Playboy Ranch, it was a thing. Oh, my daughter's in Playboy. Like that's consensual. That's
Yeah.
they wanted to do that. Why can't we have our consensual pieces? And that's the Black conversations that we need to have. There are some things in our culture that has been hidden and kept secret. Like there's some men, their first sexual encounters were with their older family members, taking them having sex with sex workers or victims of sex trafficking. I don't know who the woman was. She could have been a victim. She could have been a sex worker. I don't
Mm.
know. But that was that are their first sexual encounters. We don't know about us women. We don't know about this. We know because we were there. I was the ones that were at the parties. I was the one at the frat parties. I was the one at the bachelor parties. I was the one while I was being sex trafficked, coaches bringing their team players while they're on out of town trips having sex with me in hotel rooms. Like these are conversations that we're not even beginning to have. And we kind of want to say who's the victim and who's like, there are times when there are victims. There are situations where women are victimized, and then there are situations where those situations are consensual, and we need to have the right to our consent, right to say yes.
But you know
Um,
what? They need, I think even beyond that, what, we have to give people the space to make mistakes too. Because,
mhm.
when I talk about how I got involved with the life of, working in the club, people are like, okay, so what was the situation? Were you homeless? Were you this? I'm like, no, I didn't have a desperate situation. Like nothing tricked me, nothing made me. I wanted to be a dancer. I went and was a dancer. I got
And they want
money
to make
dancing.
you feel bad for wanting to be a
Yeah, or it's like, well, let me give you your excuse. It wasn't no excuse. That was my dream. I was living my dream. My dream also turned into my nightmare, right?
hmm
After I got into it and I started seeing other stuff in it, I hated it, but it was like I couldn't leave because, like you said, I had all my own stuff. I had built a life off of it. So like I'm
hmm
living off of this thing that I don't want to be in, which creates so much mental health issues. Lord have mercy. You start to figure that now you're starting to talk to yourself. Now I got to talk myself through it. Now I got to make myself. That's where drugs come in. At that's where people start to become dependent on things that's going to alter their mind so that they're able to do the things that they no longer want to do or no longer is fun. And then also, even if it is fun to you, like people try to make me feel like, well, how is it fun? Girl, you talking about dancing for all the celebrities. Then they're giving you money. And then they leave. It's like,
and
what?
you get to
I
take
got
that
to
money
meet a
home,
celebrity
and you
and I'm
get
18.
not only that, you get to take that money home and put it in your checking account,
Girl.
and you
And
get
it's
to
like, and I can help my family and I can feed people and I can do for people and I don't have that thing over my head. A lot of people, they have this thing where they are trying to get ahead. They're trying to get past. And I lived ahead, like financially, like I've never been like behind on bills and just trying to catch up. I'm like, Lord Jesus, like how
this is new to us. This is not like where we are
huh?
now. It's a new plane because now
Yeah.
we're struggling. Like wow, I have to wait 2 weeks to get a check, and by the time I get it, it's so split. I have like $50 to my name. Like you have to live in that existence. Um, and but what I have now is my body.
Right.
Like I
And this is a
have,
trade-off. It's definitely a
and
trade-off, and people, they don't understand that, and it's kind of like, well, if I can't win on every plane, then I lose. This is the thing. Like when we sign up and we go with these people and we do these things, with these celebrities and we're in all of them and we're at their mercy. We're at these customers' mercy. We're at the patron, the John, whoever the people, and they, whatever it is that they're trying to do, we're under their subjection. The question is, do I deserve that? No, I don't. Just because that's what I signed up to get naked and dance don't mean that I also signed up to get assaulted. That does not
mm-hmm.
mean that. And so the moral issue for me is what really drives this conversation downhill real quick because some people just can't see past it. You shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be doing that. That's the only thing they hear. You
And
shouldn't have did none of that.
that's the
It ain't nothing
that's
you
the purity talk.
I don't
That's
care. I don't care what you
mhm.
say. I don't care what the situation was. I don't care if you was homeless. I don't care about none of that. You should never, ever, ever. And I'm like, let me tell you something. I
But
don't
you
care
have
what you
sex,
think.
but there's no conversation around just having sex randomly. Like I was
Oh my God, come on with it, Keisha Head.
before I was trafficked, I was exploited because I was 12 years old in the hood, thrust into the hood, away from my structural dynamic. Like I was just put into Etheridge Court at 12. Everybody in the hood knew my mom had mental illness, and everybody played on that vulnerability. I was 12. I thought these were my boyfriends. As soon as I have sex, they gone. Boom. I mean, older men. So nobody said anything about that. People were opening up their homes for men to have sex with me, and they paid a fee for them. Nobody said anything.
Wow.
And after that, just interactions with males sexually, because I didn't know the difference between sex and love. Like nobody teaches you that different, because sex is so off topic. Like nobody wants to talk about sex to their children. So you have to pretty much figure that stuff out yourself. And that's what I did. And I found myself being exploited over and over and over again. And then so I was wide open by the time I met Sir Charles. So life and culture and society had already groomed me way before I was trafficked.
Yeah.
So I had been raped, everything by the time before I was trafficked, and all of those experiences. So by the time I was trafficked, that felt like empowerment to me.
Yes. And
It
that's
felt
and
like
that's the thing. It's kind of like,
for the first time, I get something
yeah.
instead of somebody not answering their phone when I call. I get something like, so it felt a value that put a value back on my body, because the rights to that my body had already been taken by
Right.
society. And
And
those
that's
are the conversations that we need to
mhm.
have, because children are looking at, like, they're coming from poverty. They're
Yeah.
coming from households that where their mama can't even buy toilet tissue.
Wow.
So you mean to tell me I can meet a guy and he exposed me to this, and now I can have a car, and I can have my nails done, I can have my Jordans and all these things that I never could imagine of having.
Right.
So it and people want to tell you, no, don't do that, or don't. But how are we decreasing these vulnerabilities? Let's talk about that.
Wow.
How are
You
we
know,
decreasing the
I want to talk
vulnerabilities?
about something right quick because you touched on it. If you have been a child who have been violated and you talk to a trafficker and they learn that, they use that against you. They talk to you about how, oh, so did he do this? Did they pay you? It's like, what? What do you mean? And then that's like a pivoting point to make you basically understand or feel like
You know what my
you
trafficker
have a
told me?
marketable skill. You have a marketable. So you open to that. Oh, so you good at it? Did they like it? Like they not even looking at it as a
My
bad thing.
trafficker told me, what you mean you fucking for free? You out here fucking for free? What you
Wow.
mean you know charge for it? That's dumb.
Yeah.
You fucking so, and those type of things begin to register in your mind, and you like, I am fucking like, I should be charging for this. That don't make sense. Nigga, give me my money.
because
Run me
because
my
it's
money.
happening,
So,
but
and
it's
that
because
becomes
it's happening
that in
anyway.
your bag, and that's that in your bag mentality. Get in your bag. We telling our Meg the Stallion, Cardi B, everybody, get in your bag, sis. Charge that nigga. Get what you can. These are the messages, and they're not subtle anymore.
No,
They
they're
were
not.
subtle when Trina told me you don't know nan nigga. Like that was a subtle message. Now they basically telling
And
you,
Foxy Brown.
girl, look, my daughter asked me how I dressed when I was younger, and I thought, I was like, I dress like TLC, girl. She Googled it, condoms all over the clothes. I was like, oh no, that's not how I dress.
Not like that.
I changed my mind. Like,
Not like that. Not like
but
that.
these were our messages. These were the question is, why are Black girls so sexualized? Why are we sex objects from birth? Because you had, like, from little kids twerking at birthday parties and adults standing around. Oh, look her shaking her booty. Oh, look, girl, get it, girl, on the floor. And adult men looking at, I mean, from that age on up, this is our culture. And these are the things we really need to dissect and see, how do we get here? Because, and what is an actual victim, and how, and where can I cross paths from being a victim and empowered and consensual, and how all this can't be in the same pot. Like it can't be. I think you muted. Yes.
I'm talking to my child. But
Oh,
so
okay.
when when we have this cultural thing, when we look at Africa, we see the kids dancing in Africa. We see that it's in us to dance. It's in us to move. You know,
It
my
is.
mama did not demonize me for dancing. She did not, but she did not allow me to hunch the flow either. You know,
Yeah.
and so when it started getting, the kids start getting nasty, like, that's nasty. Or some the kids start dancing on each other. No, you can't dance on them. That's too much. That's not the same thing. But
Uh-huh.
to
It's different.
acknowledge that it's in us to dance. We dancing is in our blood. Dancing is something. I went to a little party thing yesterday, and it was kids dancing, and it just you're it's in you to do. It's the adults
And
that sexualize
those
it.
are things, those are totally okay things. Those are totally
The adults are the
innocent.
ones that sexualize it when they
That's what I'm
start
saying. But
to.
when you come from a background with sexual abuse, you begin to view things differently. It's just like the kid sitting on the man's lap, and the kid know he's grinding, but adults don't see that. Or when the adult turn their head, the man licking his tongue out, like those things. Like so, and then when you have those settings, we're thinking, oh, this is innocent. This is African dance. This is our culture. But there are some other things at play. Like I don't play, like when I search the room and I watch people's faces, like when little kids, especially men, and you can tell who don't need to be in the room at that moment. And I'm the one that expose, turn the music off, let's switch the song. And that's me being my protector and that gatekeeper, because I didn't feel that people were aware enough to be that for me. So it's a lot of things, like what are the sacred spaces where our babies can dance, and how do we put protectors in place for them to express their expression, because dance is beautiful. It's in our genes, it's in our genetics, it's in our DNA. So yeah, like how do we create these safe spaces for these things to happen without it being sexualized and all these other things come, and separating the monster from just culture? Like how do we do that? We have a
That's
wonderful, beautiful culture.
I say that's a good point. But I'm thinking about how when I'm looking at all of these stories of these women accusing T.I. and Tiny of the same thing. And it's kind of like, I remember, and I'm reading the story and I'm seeing myself in the story, but I see the twist and I see the turn. It's kind of like, when you're very naive and you feel like, you know, so somebody said they told me to come with them. Okay.
You got to be honest. You got to be
Right.
truthful.
I'm about to
Let's
say
tell the truth.
I
If
mean,
we can start, the
that's not
truth will set
kidnapping.
you free.
When you went, that was consensual, right? When you got to the room and they got naked, some people were able to leave, some people left, but other people who weren't, who didn't leave, they didn't feel like they could, right? So that's the question. Is kind of like, where
It's
is
kind of like that scene from Players Ball, when the
what?
cousin, when she was sexually assaulted, like how the she came to the party,
It's my Players
and
Club. Yeah.
it's kind of similar. Is that the situation that we're having here? And then someone was victimized, or
Mm, I'm thinking because I mean, and it was at least like what 14 to 15 people came out on Twitter, and that was just one thread. Um,
okay,
there was one thread on Twitter that was like all these different people saying that that Tiny was the one doing all the talking, and she was basically talking the women into doing stuff. And they were saying that Ti beat Tiny in front of them and all that stuff. And it's a lot of stuff that I see. First of all, I'm an Atlanta native, okay, and I have a lot of pride in that. I mean, if I'm gonna be patriotic, that's how I feel. Like my heart swells when I think about being from Atlanta, not necessarily America, but just Atlanta, yes. So
mm-hmm.
I have a pride in that. Like I take pride in where I'm from, and it really hurts me that Ti does some of the stuff that he does, and that he's involved in some of the stuff he's involved in. And
Mm-hmm.
I know he does some good now, and I know he's doing some stuff, but it hurts to hear these accusations on him, knowing that the truth of it is, in his heart, he did want more women than he's supposed to have. Because, sir, you're married. You're supposed to just have Tiny. That's it.
But that not
You're
really
supposed to,
because
right? Like that's what you're
not
supposed to be doing. If you want to be a beacon in the community, you want to be a leader.
I have to play the devil's advocate
Okay, let
because
me get
you
this
have
out
to
so
live.
you can play the devil advocate on it all the way.
Okay,
I'm gonna be the angel, you be the devil. Let me tell you. So you
okay.
married, you want to better the community, you want to help the people, you want to build up black men and all of that stuff. But you, as an example, I don't know if you're really a good example in this space because abusing your wife, um, going and bringing people inside of your marriage is not necessarily something that's going to help us as a community grow, especially when we talk about hashtag black love. Like, that's not black love. That is you living a lifestyle all about yourself. Are you building up your wife? Are you helping her become the best person she can be? Or is it all about you, T.I.? You know what I'm saying? To the point where she is being accused she's drugging people for you. And so it's like, where are you leading? Oh, we lost her. We gonna bring her back. But we lost, we're lost as a people because people want to be leaders, but where are we following these leaders to? And I'm not saying that I believe every single person that came out and I believe that he's a monster, but we have to look at what it is that what the influencers are influencing us to do. And she back. So go ahead and be the devil's advocate, girl.
The thing about okay, I'm gonna be in my blackness.
Go ahead.
So every other community, the LGBTQ, stand on rights of self-identity and whatever you identify as and sexual orientation. If T.I. and his wife, who are two adults, agree to have an open polygamy relationship,
Mm-hmm.
that is their right. Don't work for me, but if they choose to engage, I know a lot of people who go to swingers clubs, couples, because you can't hardly get in a swinging club unless you're a couple.
Okay.
And so this is a lifestyle
Yep.
that's different than we live in a world where people have so many different lifestyles that they engage in.
Yes.
Just because we live one way does not mean that works for. I know a lot of polygamy couples that are thriving and successful, it works for them,
Mm-hmm.
and that is their right. And me as a heterosexual person does not have a right to say that they can or cannot, and what he should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Ti is from Etheridge, Bankhead, Center Hill, born home.
On
So
hold.
let's talk about the etymology of Ti. So let's go there.
Come
So
on.
we're not talking about Martin Luther King here.
Mm.
We're talking about someone who came from the concrete, the roads that grew from the concrete, and learned and growed along the way. And like I told you, if God had not told me, gave me my mandate yesterday, I wouldn't have been able to make it in the movement because people would have judged
Mm.
me by my past. But he
What's your
let me in
past?
my past of just having an escort service. People would have said
Uh-huh.
that contradicted the advocacy work. But over time, like when you go through a transformation with God,
Yes.
and I don't know where T.I. had his moment on the road of Damascus with God.
Okay.
I don't know where he had his from Paul to Saul moment. Like
Uh-huh.
that's between him and God. But when
Uh-huh.
you answer that call, I know that there are certain demons that are assigned to people. And when you answer the call of God, those demons are going to go haywire.
Yeah.
T.I. don't feel is the R. Kelly. T.I. is not R. Kelly. I don't feel that in my heart. I think that he's a man that made huge mistakes. We got wrapped up in a culture that kind of swept him under, and he didn't have the skill set or the mindset to navigate those things. He was a man that came into money and wealth very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Like and had access, and he just went with it. Even Ti, when she did her Red Table Talk with Jada Pickett Smith, they talked about some things of her growth when he went to prison, and how he came home and went into that role of how, and she had to say, "Hey, I've changed, I've grown." So I
Yeah.
don't even know where they reached that level in their relationship, but I noticed when he came home from prison and she began to make changes. God had her by herself when she made those changes. When he
Mm.
came home, he had to make some changes too, because he seen the woman that he was with was not the same woman he left. So when he
Yeah.
left, so those are
I
the
want to
like
I
we
want to
get
put up
from
a
the out.
comment
It's
because
so
you just
hard.
said it. You just
Yeah,
said it. You just said that it's a cultural thing, right? And I have a comment here that was on, this is on YouTube. And Andrea Daniels said these people are involved in satanic sexual rituals. This is not
it might
something
be.
consenting adults. These are satanic, right? And so
All of
let's
it's
talk about.
satanic. All of it's satanic if you're honest with it.
Mhm.
All of it is demonic. Like I had certain people that were assigned to me when I was in
Okay.
the life, that even when I went through my transformation, those people told me, I will call you by that, whatever my name was in the life. You know, when you do that split thing, that person, they said, I would never call you by your real name. You
Wow.
are Choicey. Like I will
Yes.
call you Choicey forever. So that told me, being discernful, that demon was assigned, and those people are not attached to me anymore. They can't be,
Right.
because I am light now. So it
Hmm.
is very demonic. It is very satanic. But can a person who is under satanic possession be delivered?
Yes. The question
And
is,
can
what are
that
you doing to
person,
be delivered, though? I mean, like, if you're involved in some stuff, and that's the thing too, like if that's a process. You have to be processed out. It's that in order to operate and be involved with the enemy, it's easy to jump in. It's just like quicksand. How hard is it to get in quicksand? Very easy. But how
mhm,
hard is it to get out? You got to get out. You got to get out. Do you know? I never been in quicksand, but the more you move, the more sinking down you go. And
mhm.
so, and then just think about what sand is. If you go on the beach and it's not even quicksand, girl, you don't walk on the beach. You got it all. That sand is in your car. That sand is in your hair. I don't care how careful you was. I don't care what you did. That sand is on you, but it's because of where you been. And so you have to be very careful and mindful that you have dirt. See, you about to make me preach on here. You
You better
about to make me
preach,
preach.
girl. You
You
better
have
preach.
dirt, right? And so when you have your dirt, what I'm not going to do is get in the car and start talking about all the people I seen on the beach for the reason I got dirt in my car. That person that was next to me on that tower, they was by me. That's why I got dirt in my car. No, you was
Yeah.
on the beach. You was in that environment. You was in that situation. So now you have this stuff, and you can't go around blaming others. And I'm not saying anybody is. I'm just saying this is what I talk to the women
But
about.
why now? But why
Owning it.
now? Why
Owning it.
when why when Ti began to do advocacy work for the Black community, this come out? Why does it come out 5 years ago?
Well, I'm gonna say this. This is
Why?
what I got to say about Ti. If he gonna watch this, if anybody want to send this to him, this is the message I have for Ti. Period. Okay. If you really want to be helpful, help. Period. And it doesn't matter what nobody say about you. You're doing what you're supposed to do. You're doing what God say. Well, for people to get on microphones and get on the news and start talking like they are the representative of a whole people that nobody voted for, Lord, you have to take the reins and use what resources you have. This is what I would like for you to do, Ti, if you're listening. I would like for you to start something that's going to empower Black people to be in business as opposed to just talking about you having your own business. Well, I got a business over here and I got this and I got that. Guess what? Set up a nonprofit where you're helping people and you're helping fund other people's dreams instead of having coming to the club and saying, well, I support the strippers. Guess what? Those people don't want to be there. 99% of those women are trying to figure out how to stop coming up in that club and get naked and dancing for your dollars. Why don't you set up a situation to where they can come to you with a business plan? If they don't have a business plan, they just have an idea. You can help them get a business plan so that they can execute something that's going to build them and their family, have a legacy, so that you can actually make a positive effect in the community and let other people have their place in that too. If people are too busy working and doing their own business, no, there won't be anybody there to make their butt clap for you. Are you going to be
And
more if you're more consumed with your sexual needs and that you should be I want to be, I'm not going to give nobody no money unless they dancing. You really count yourself out and you shoot yourself in the foot when you start talking about how much you want to help people because you're getting out here in the community and you're giving away free meat and all that. I don't care about that. That's what food stamps is for, okay? But I'm talking about, do you have a place where people can Shark Tank you, a black Shark Tank? Let's come in. Do you have a good idea? I want to fund you. I mean, I want to back you. I want to support you so that you cannot be in the club because you are more than your body. How about that? How about that? As opposed to just being protective over your one daughter, your one little girl, you could be supportive of a lot of females' dreams, their mind, and ask them what it is they want to do in life. And ask how you, Ti, can support that financially since you have the means. You see what I'm saying? You do with it what you have. And see, the reason why people are saying, well, now them girls can't say that because those girls get paid. Guess what? Don't use that against people if they need to get money and they're doing stuff. Ti, don't use their situation against them and victimize them further and say, well, I support you. No, you're not supporting them. You're enabling them. You are trapping them. You are part of the issue. If you out of one side of your mouth talk about community empowerment and then out the other side and then deep in your heart, you're gonna keep a few of your favorite girls in Magic City because that's where you like to go on Monday. You see what I'm saying? That's not fair. And it's not, I gotta call you out as much as because I love girls that work at the club. I love that culture. That's where I come from. But it's changing and it's shifting and it's now very, very exploitive. Those women are not empowered anymore. They got people counting their money for them. They're not able. They got these high fees. They got to
it's a
pay.
mess.
It's too much money being taken away from the women where it's more about just making sure that customers and people who have fetishes get serviced. That is the priority. And I'm tired of that part. And so when we have women who have PhDs, okay, they're still on the stage. We know that it's a mental and a spiritual component that is keeping them bound, which is, the whole nother area. But give them an economic out. Give them something where they can say, guess what? I'm going to go to Ti's program and I'm going to pitch my idea for my business and see if I can get a loan or see if he can give me a scholarship or see if he can help support me, connect me with somebody who can do my website, somebody who's going to put me in somebody else's face to get some money with my clothes on. Can you do that for me?
And can I
Come on.
there uh, there's a responsibility that comes with advocacy.
It
There's a
is.
responsibility not only to self but to community.
Mm-hmm.
And that is basically what you're speaking on.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to sit down with Ti and have like
Me
you
too.
cause harm. You cause harm and you cause damage. So how can you mend it?
How?
Where's the mending? Because you have to mend before I could come into advocacy, I had to go back and apologize to everybody I harmed.
Mm.
I mean, a heartfelt, I am so sorry. I did not know that I was incorporated into your exploitation. Like I didn't, because I was in it. I didn't, and when you're in it, you can't see the forest for the trees. Like I was right there, so I couldn't see the bigger picture of the
Okay.
whole thing. So even with Ti, I do want to say that it's all about awareness. And if you don't know, you don't know. You don't, when you know better, you do better. And now that you have brought that awareness piece to it, um, Ti, we need to know what your answer is and how you gonna fix this mess because this gonna take you down like R. Kelly. And R. Kelly was a monster. I will never advocate or say anything good about R. Kelly. I know that was he was a trafficker in and out. And
Well,
he's a black man and I understand even with me being a black woman, and I know there's the population that says, how can you bring black men down? But this isn't about bringing black men down. This is about bringing us up and correcting those negative things in our culture that have been underground for so long, and it manifests in society in certain ways, and we're wondering, where did that come from? We need to address these issues. We need to address, and this is men, y'all need to have conversations with each other. It's
yeah.
okay to be the one to say, nah, bro, I'm cool. I'm not going that route. I'm not going like, or like the man that we was in that room, he stood up when the troll
Girl,
came in.
that gave me chills.
Oh, where them black men at? Black
Tell them what
men,
happened.
we
Tell them what
need you
happened.
to stand up. Like, and so we can heal. We can heal. It's not the finger pointing. It's your fault. It's my fault. It's their fault. We need your healing. We need your support. We need for everybody to come together. And if you were like, even me with my husband, I've had conversations with him and we talk about the culture. We talk about how it felt being from a man, and I listen to him from a man perspective of going through and how it's kind of that male masculinity type thing that's thrust on young boys and how they navigate the world.
Let me tell
So
y'all
it,
what happened. Let me tell y'all what
mhm.
happened. So we was on Clubhouse, and a troll came in and wanted to hear Keisha tell her story. He said, how were you trafficked? He started wanting no details, and another man got on the stage and was asking, he was waiting, and the troll left, but the guy said, I was actually got up on the stage because I was getting ready to ask him some questions about what it is he wanted to know and why he said,
Why he was
I didn't like the way he was coming for her, so I was coming at him. As a man, he was coming for the other man, and that blessed me.
that
That's
blessed
what we was
me.
talking
It
about.
healed me. It blessed me,
Yeah.
and it let me know that there are some powerful um and loving and caring black men on earth, and
Yes.
we need to really bring them to the foresight and and bring them on stage and let so that they can help these other brothers out who are lacking. Because we can't keep in the because this is becoming a sinking ship amongst us as a people, and we need to really come together
I
and
don't
let the
know.
men in. Let them
I
in.
don't
Where
know
the men
why,
at?
but my comments are not able to be brought in from Facebook like I did from YouTube. But Brenda Holt on here says the black community hardly ever talks about or hardly ever wants to talk about the childhood experiences that make women vulnerable to sex trafficking. Hey, Brenda. So, and prostitution. And so
Mhm.
she really just wanted to state that to you to because that was a good point. And I know she
Okay.
probably said it a long time ago, but I think that's an excellent point
Yeah,
to just,
that is huge because what we have
yeah,
to understand is we are the
yeah, y'all give me some
continuum.
likes and stuff, some hearts and
We
stuff. The hearts
we're
up.
the continuum from slavery.
Hmm.
So I didn't just land here. I am connected to my ancestors, and I wasn't trafficked just because that's the thing. That has been the continuum and the gravitational force that thrust me. Like no matter where I turned, trafficking was there. It was just bound to happen. And it
Wow.
happens so much to black and brown kids and we don't talk about it. We kind of put it on as a hindsight thing, but it really needs to come to the surface of what's happening to black and brown kids, the vulnerabilities, self-parenting, kids having to take care of their addicted parents and siblings and try to figure out. I know we have a survivor by the name of Dorsey Jones. Her story really speaks to that. Like she had to feed her siblings to just to put food on the table, and was exploited in her community and trafficked in her community. So those are the things we really need to talk about and have these
You
conversations,
know what?
even men. And
I feel
but
like
on that same,
we might have to take this conversation to Clubhouse right here
yeah,
because I really
definitely.
want to know. This is make because I'm looking at some comments and I'm thinking about Kobe Bryant, right? I'm thinking about the same. It's the same thing, same dynamic, same storyline, right? But the skin color is different. So the question is, are there people being taken it? Are there people being taken advantage of because they're black that
Oh,
nobody cares, or is it that only the people who are um they're you know what I'm trying to say. You know I'm
yeah.
going. It's
Well, you
it's
can't
making me
talk
think
before
because
we get
I
into
don't
the
know who
people.
the victims are, but I just feel
Mhm.
like if they were certain people, we would know about it.
And first, we need to see the first thing we need to do is see if it was sex work or if it was trafficking. And then the second part, you really can't talk about sex trafficking without talking about race. Like we haven't even talked about
Come
the
on,
black
man. Yeah,
experience.
I say yeah, girl. And this
We
has been
haven't
an
even
hour
talked
in.
about the
We
like
might
you
have
can't
to do another
push
one
the
on
black
that.
folks out. We can't push us out the way. We have to be talked about first and foremost, and then people of color, and then white women. I mean, that is just the way that it is because of how the trafficking has been set up in the country. And that's not saying my experience trumps your experience. That means my experience has to be addressed because it
Yeah.
happened first. It happened first. You don't get to go to 99 and skip over 1, 2, 3, 4. You have
You're right.
to you have to
Right.
work in that order and figure out how did it start, because you can't end something if you don't know how it began.
Well,
How can you
or
end
want to
something?
acknowledge it. Somebody on Facebook, I mean on YouTube is saying, "But is this real?" I don't know what they mean by "is this real." I don't know if they mean,
I think they're saying, is this because I do know
what do you mean
Sabrina.
by "is this real"? Is what real?
Everybody knows Sabrina. I don't know if this is her tangent that she's on and she's doing it in a vicious way. So is our things, but if she has other people that are saying that they were victims of sex trafficking, I'm trying to see, do they even understand what sex trafficking is? Was it force, fraud, or coercion? If they're saying that Ti put a gun in their head and made them have sex with him, Ti needs to go to jail right today, right now, no question about it. Or was it a thing that you was doing drugs and you engaged in consensual sex? We need, and then at a later time regretted it, because there's things that I've done and regret it, but that don't mean it wasn't consensual. Like, and knowing the difference. So you're stuck. Did I freeze?